Ah, nature. Isn't it beautiful? Can you beat Elden Ring as a vegetarian craftsman?
Baron, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, Baron, are you feeling okay?
I said, can you beat Elden Ring as a Well, no. Maybe? Kinda? Look, who knows at this stage, because of all the crackpot ideas I've had, this was the worst run since Naruto. Let me explain. My original idea was to try and beat the game as an animal-loving forager, living at one with nature. What this would mean is no weapons or offensive spells. I can only use items I've either crafted or gathered from the ground for damage. But those items cannot contain any animals or animal parts. That means no bones, no blood, no teeth, no butterflies, no fireflies, no centipedes. You get the idea. Crafting materials that are animal byproducts but don't involve harming the animal, like gold poop or Season 8 of Game of Thrones, are acceptable. This seriously reduces the amount of craftable options. I miss you, rot pots. You can probably already see that this is a really dumb idea, but wait, there's more. No purchasing crafting items from vendors unless they're unique ones like pots or cookbooks, because we don't support big merchant. No consuming meat or seafood, no jellyfish shield, no killing of any animal, including any bosses that I deem as such, including, but not limited to, wolves, bats, bears, deathbirds, deathrite birds, deathrong birds, big dragons, bigger dragons, flat dragons, snakes, and Red Wolf of Radahn, which means no Renala, which means no ability to respec or reach the Moonlight Altar area. I make an exception for bosses on horseback where the boss itself is the rider though, so yay! Got it? Oh god, what have I done?
I don't even know what to make of that.
Hey guys, today's video is sponsored by the amazing new mobile game Souls of the Darkness. Play as generic swordman against all your favourite bosses like this one, and who can forget this one. Slash, leap and roll your way to victory in Souls of the Darkness. Available now for the price of nothing. You can't have it. It's mine. Go away. The name's Earth McSavey. Confessor as starting class, the 3 cracked pots as my starting gift, a big ugly boss to ignore, and it was off to Limgrave to save the world one cute furball at a time. You know how these runs go at the start. Grab all the useful stuff like golden seeds, sacred tears, map fragments and the physic flask. Visit Liurnia for the glintstone key and pick up the 2 Dectus lift pieces from Fort Height and Fort Farath. I also made sure to loot every grave I passed, as I have no shame, and uprooted all the plants I could lay my little green bony fingers on. Because I may love animals, but I sure do fucking hate plants.
Energetic music will now play, in order to deceive you into thinking that this section is more interesting than it actually is.
My primary source of damage would be crafting pots, at least for now, so let's briefly talk about these. There are a maximum of 20 cracked pots and 10 ritual pots available throughout the game. However, one of these cracked pots is gated off in the academy, so my max for the run would be 19. The pots themselves are not consumed when thrown, only the crafting ingredients inside. However, you can't craft in combat, so for the purpose of boss battles, whatever I enter with is what I have to work with. First order of business was cracked pots. Already had 3 from my starter kit, and 10 more were easily obtainable, either from around the world or from merchants, giving me a total of 13 for now, which is an appropriately unlucky number. Next, ritual pots. 1 from Laskjar Ruins, 2 from Jarburg, and 1 from the merchant in Dragon Barrow. who also sold me the beast repellent torch to make running around a little less painful. Finally, time for some recipes. I collected or purchased all the cookbooks I needed for now in order to be able to craft the following items: sleep pots, fetid pots, oil pots, holy water pots, freeze pots, poison pots, volcano pots, giant's flame pots, lightning pots, and cuckoo glintstone. I swear we'll get to the entertaining bit soon. Jesse, we have to cook. Alexander had a butt massage, Rani showed me her bluebies, Melina and I got married, I grabbed a few useful trinkets, and I was ready to take on a boss. You'll do nicely, pal. For now, I just wanted to get some vague idea of how well everything worked, so I crafted a variety of items to start off. 3 fetid pots, 5 holy water pots, 5 volcano pots, 4 freezing pots, and 10 cuckoo glintstone, which is a consumable which doesn't require pots. I should mention a couple of obvious dick punches at this point. Firstly, all of these consumables scale with different stats. And, since I wouldn't be able to respec at any point, my levelling would look worse than the average Elon Musk build, which meant I would have to use talismans to boost my stats as much as possible. Secondly, ritual pots are not something I could rely upon until after the capital. The only 2 useful ritual pot recipes I could use in bulk are freezing pots and giant's flame pots. Giant's flame pots simply can't be crafted until the mountain tops, and the rhymed crystal buds required to make freezing pots are extremely limited until you reach the snowfields, with only enough available to make 15 pots before then, mostly from Handjob Manor. Good thing Morgott is a total pushover then.
Yes, science!
After pumping myself full of roids, I ordered Gostock to open the gates, thanked him by teaching him the hot coals dance, made my way through Stormvale with absolutely no issues whatsoever to speak of, and it was Godric time. Now, he might be one of the easiest Shardbearers in the game, but his HP pool is still noticeably larger than Morgott's. And, while avoiding his attacks isn't an issue, doing enough damage with my current setup definitely was. Cuckoo Glintstone is a given for all these fights, and I also crafted 4 freezing pots, but I didn't intend to waste these unless I reached the end of the battle. First up, volcano pots. Not terrible damage, but not enough to get him down. Next, I added the 2 fingers heirloom to my setup to boost my faith and tried with holy water pots instead. Yep, these still suck all of the suckable things, and I couldn't even get him to phase 2. I swapped back to volcano pots, but also crafted some oil pots to try and boost my damage, which was enough to see phase 2 this time, but nowhere near enough to finish things off. Rather than keep banging my head against the wall any longer, I decided I needed more chonk in my badonkadonk, but luckily I still had a few tricks left up my sleeve. Firstly, I picked up Marika's Scarsil from Shifa River, which gives a small boost to various stats. Unfortunately, this also lowers damage resistance, and when coupled with Radagon's Sourcil would make me as squishy as a gummy bear. Meh, getting hit is overrated. Next, I grabbed the Flame Grant Me Strength incantation, which I could use to boost the power of my volcano pots. Finally, I went to explore the Auriza side tomb in Altus, because it's cheaper than visiting a dominatrix. Seriously, double fuck this place with a cherry on top.
Look, Morty, I turned myself into a candle.
You don't see me, you don't see me, you don't see me. Ah. I probably died more in here than on everything else before the mountaintops combined. But I managed to escape with 2 cracked pots and 2 ritual pots. So, totally worth it. Oi, Godric! Catch! Hi, Editor Baron from the future here. You might have noticed there's an animal-friendly consumable I haven't mentioned yet. Crystal darts. Well, that makes you more observant than me, because although I included these in my original plans, I then promptly forgot all about them when I actually came to do the run, so... yeah. I'd somehow got it into my head that I couldn't craft any of the dart items, but hey, enjoy my unnecessary additional suffering, and in fairness, there wasn't any point in this run where the addition of crystal darts alone would have been enough to turn the tide. But now you know. Like and sub for more terrible planning. He's the one called Earth McSavey, yes, he's here to save the day. So he met with Vade at the church and he told him to invade. This went as well as expected, though this guy should feel ashamed. Vade showered him with praise and sent him off to frenzied flame. He soaked the cloth and brought it back to him to make his way to Morgott, where the roly-poly Alvin hour explained life is so grim. He filled his pockets to the brim with piles of bloody poo, and a cookbook to make swarm pots and the hailing drake +2. Then he leveled up with money that he'd gathered up as loot, and went back from Stormvale Castle on a quest for Godric's rune. Rode his silly horse to Redmane, where the wildlife is so frightful. All that bumping in the saddle made him...
You came. How delightful.
Okay, piss off, hippie. It was finally time for Radahn to go Radahn. Not on me though, hopefully. I set myself up with 10 volcano pots and 5 swarm pots to test out the bleed, and... yeah, nope, nowhere close. After a couple of ineffective attempts, I decided to try a more bleed-based setup instead, so I grabbed the Albin Auric mask from Volcano Manor, which boosts Arcane by 4 points. They're not animals, don't at me. And switched my loadout to 10 swarm pots and 5 volcano pots. This was still bad. Swarm pots are only effective if the boss stays in the cloud of flies for the duration, so you really have to pick your moments. And even then, it takes several pots to even proc bleed once, so given I had limited containers, it really wasn't cost effective. It was clear that it was not, in fact, time for Radahn to go Radahn. So I went and indulged in some other activities instead. This guy died, this guy lived. These guys rode their boats merrily down the stream. This elegant fella had an unfortunate accident. I definitely didn't cheese O'Neill, and I decided to get Loretta out of the way. One thing I love about Loretta is her really varied moveset. Another is the way that she jumps out of the way of my pots. I'm not salty. At first, I tried with 15 lightning pots, given that Loretta is fought in a water pool. And although it didn't go badly, I didn't quite have enough power to get me over the line. I switched it up to volcano pots, and this was even worse. Volcano pots simply aren't effective against bosses who hop around a lot with no downtime. So it seemed that lightning was the way to go here. Then I realised that I am, in fact, the stupidest person in the history of stupid people, and went to grab 3 cracked pots I'd missed. 2 in Stormvale, and 1 at the side of Carrier Manor. Now, I finally had enough oomph to take Loretta down, and coupled with the fact I was now more aware of which windows to avoid, this was an easy win. Okay, fuck you, Elden Ring. Like I said, this was an easy win. You saw nothing. I didn't just pick those activities at random. Killing Loretta allowed me to access Pidia, who sells one more ritual pot, and freeing up O'Neill's Grace gives a convenient spot to farm toxic mushrooms, which are used to craft poison pots. And while that's all very nice, it was becoming increasingly obvious that this run in its current state was not possible, and I would need to start making some concessions. The first one I made was I decided I would use gravity stone fans and chunks. However, I would only use the limited amount that you can find around the map in an emergency, not the ones from merchants. The second, more important one, was that due to the limited availability of freeze pots until after Morgott, coupled with the fact I would need every possible damage option available to me, I would back up my save. Don't like it? Enjoy the alternate universe where this video never existed. By now, this was more an exercise on what was even possible than a proper run, and even though I only intended to use freeze pots at the tail end of the fight, I didn't want to end up in a position where I used them all up only to die right at the end, leaving myself short of resources for further attempts. Not that I would ever do that, of course. Yeah, look, this is the bit where you get some music and a boss fight. Enjoy, I'm going to make some herbal tea and cry.
Has that roused thy interest?
It's roused something. Luckily, Alexander was up for round 2, even if I did need to ease myself in with a little lube. And he thanked me by turning me into a pothead. The jar helmet increases the damage of all pots by 15%, so would stay on for most of the run. I headed into Rani's vast crater and made my way through Nokron. Great, thanks, rub it in, and prepared to face myself. Mimic tear? No tears. Just unequip everything before the boss fight and enjoy. It's fine to do this. Don't beat yourself up over it. Oh my god, you are just the cutest thing ever, aren't you?
It was but brief, but thou gavest me fine service.
Yeah, not the first time I've heard that. My Nokron story arc was now complete, so it was time to start the I wouldn't dream of cheesing one of my favourite bosses in the game story arc. See, you might not be able to craft in combat, but if you poison Draconic and horsey over to this rock, he immediately loses interest and you can recraft to your heart's content. This takes a while though, so don't bollocks it up right at the end, yeah? Lane Dell is one of the best looking areas in the game. Unfortunately, I basically sprinted past everything, so you'll just have to imagine it. The only things of note that I stopped to pick up here were a couple of seedbed curses so I could get the key to the Dung Eater's pleasure room. Godfrey went down like a chump, since he has a couple of attacks with slow recoveries that would allow me to abuse volcano pots. I made a couple of brief detours to the Divine Tower of Liurnia to grab the Stargazer heirloom from Ranni Barbecue Edition, which would give me a 5-point boost to int if needed, and the Dragon Crest Shield Talisman +1 from Sainted Hero's Grave to make myself less like a wet paper bag. And I was ready to face Morgott. My basic plan for this fight was to front load my damage to get into phase 2 as fast as possible, since that's when Morgott starts jumping around like the little bish he is. So I made sure to buy the shackle from Patches, buffed myself with Rallying Standard and Flame Grant Me Strength outside the fog, and it went a little like this. Haha, oops, wrong footage. I meant... Shouldn't have skipped leg day, mate. Tyler Durden gave me a medallion piece. I rode the elevator up to the mountain tops, headed up to Flame Peak to unlock the Grace, and then made my way north to Castle Sol, since I had no desire to fight the Brisket champ anytime soon. How peaceful. At this point, I should mention that reaching the mountaintops finally gave me the option to craft Giant's Flame pots, since Fire Blossom grows abundantly around here. Zamor Ruins is a good farming spot. However, these weren't the only new tool in my arsenal. Telling Gideon about Mogwin Palace rewards you with Fevor's Cookbook 3, which lets you craft bewitching branches. Anyone remember how you used to be able to poke people on Facebook to try and make friends? This is kinda like that. Now, if only there was a boss around here I could use these on. Oh, hey, good to see you guys there. Although I don't find Niall particularly hard, he does have a fairly decent health pool, so I was somewhat reliant on good RNG to get his pals to chunk a decent amount of his HP before phase 2. It didn't exactly go to plan, but then it did. Easy, boss. Don't at me. I wasn't just killing Niall because I'm a masochist. Accessing the snowfields gives unlimited access to rhymed crystal buds. This tree near Ordina is a good farming spot. So, I finally had all of my pot options open to me. Now, before anyone asks in the comments, I'm aware that ancient Dragon Bolt pots are also a thing, but they need gravel stone to craft, which is a limited item and a pain to farm, so I pretty much discounted them. If you're not happy with that decision, then here's some footage of me dying in the Everjail to cheer you up. Thank God for sleep pots. I should probably show you my stats at this point. There you go. I can't be responsible for any injuries caused to your eyes. The Halig tree was as welcoming as always. I picked up Golden Vow from Mount Gelmir because it would provide a better option than Rallying Standard for the fights ahead. collected one more crackpot I'd forgotten in Lane Dell, and 3 more ritual pots from the Academy, the Shunning Grounds, and the Giant's Mountaintop Catacombs. Pots? Completed them, mate. Loretta should be no problem, right? Well, about that. First, I tried a mixture of Poison, Swarm, and Giant's Flame pots. The positives were that Poison does work. Swarm pots, on the other hand, aren't great because she's too mobile. I messed around with the proportions for a while to try and figure out what worked best, definitely picked all the best windows to throw my pots, and came to the conclusion that this was not the way. Lightning had carried me through the first encounter, so I switched things up, and this definitely worked better, but I needed more. More! Okay, that's enough, thanks. A couple of poison pots to start the fight off, switch up to freezing pots to try and get 1 frost proc, then flame grant me strength to use up my giant's flame pots, find a window to cast Golden Vow, swig my craft beer, and then it's lightning all the way, baby. Last pot. Nice. Nope. I'm not doing Melania. This run was already starting to look impossible as it was, and I had much bigger fish to fry. Or lightly singe, at least. After picking up a couple of physic tears that would come in useful, I could put it off no longer. Oh god! Would it surprise you to know that this was absolutely awful? At first, I tried with a mixture of volcano pots, swarm pots, and freezing pots. This got me nowhere at all. Status effects that require multiple pots for 1 chunk of damage simply aren't cost effective at this stage of the game. Next, I switched up to Lightning and Giant's Flame to test these out. The results were a little better, but still nowhere close. Poison was a thing for a while until it wasn't, because it did far too little damage overall to be of use. So I went and killed demi-human Queen Gillica in the Lux Ruins to get the Ritual Sword Talisman for an additional damage boost, had a few more attempts, and came to a sad conclusion. This wasn't possible. The most effective loadout for damage would be 19 lightning pots, 10 giant's flame pots, and cuckoo glintstone, and in the best possible case scenario, with all my buffs applied, I did some quick maths, and the maximum damage I'd be able to do was around 37,000 HP, and since the physic only lasts 3 minutes, this wasn't going to happen anyway. Fire Giant has 43,000 HP, and even accounting for the percentage he loses during the transition, I simply wouldn't be able to do enough damage to kill him. Rip run. Rules exist to be broken, stomped on, and crushed into fine powder. Also, I wanted to be able to make a video, so I settled for another compromise. Kukri are an item that can't be crafted. Therefore, technically, there is no evidence that they're not animal friendly. Yeah, unless you throw one at a dog. And although these can be purchased from merchants, they can also be looted from the ground, and I happen to have 18 in my pocket, which sounds like a health and safety hazard if I'm honest. Given that these can proc bleed too, if I just use the ones I picked up, that should be just enough to push me over the edge damage-wise. Of course, that meant I technically had only one chance to succeed, and yeah, you know, that's not really my speciality. Fuck! So, I backed my save up again. Deal with it. Again. Good thing too, because one wasted throw and you might as well restart. You need every ounce of damage possible here. But then, after 30 tediously painful attempts, something wonderful happened. I'm not bitter, honest. Fire Giant may have been dispatched to the Great Kiln in the sky, but I knew things weren't going to get any easier from here on in. So I decided to do something more relaxing by visiting my good pal the preposterous turd gurgler at his Airbnb. After which, we took a trip to stage a protest against the local meat seller and indulged in some friendly sparring. I'd had so much fun with my new friend, I decided to treat him to some special snacks, and he thanked me with a hairy arsehole. Cheers? With that out of the way, I took my ultimate revenge on the plant world by burning down the world's largest cauliflower, ran through Farum as fast as my little green feet could carry me, and this is where the real fuck you Elden Ring begins. The Godskins have a combined HP pool of over 26,000, and although their resistances aren't completely through the roof, nothing I could throw at them, even fully buffed, was strong enough to make decent inroads into their health bar. Volcano pots would be ineffective as the duo hop around too much and have decent fire resistance. Poison was a waste of pots given the amount of throws it took for one proc. Swarm pots weren't worth it either. While sleep pots worked to take one Godskin out of the equation, this didn't help me to improve my damage against the other one in any way, and was just reducing my available pots. Lightning seemed like the best option, but I simply couldn't output nearly enough damage to get even close. I decided on another compromise. So far, I'd avoided the use of perfumes, but there was one specific perfume that I'd been internally debating over. Spark Aromatic. See, one of the ingredients needed to craft this is Miranda powder, which is normally obtained from Miranda flowers. Are they a plant? Are they an animal? Who knows, but this is not the time for existential discussion, and I was willing to make an exception. So, although I didn't intend to kill any flowers to get the powder, I had found some on the ground along my travels, so I decided to test it out anyway, and grabbed the cookbooks, perfumer's talisman, and all the bottles I could find. I also picked up the Torch of St. Trina from the snowfields to replace my sleep pots, since its flame does no damage, and returned for more torture. The torch sucked, and was far too unreliable to put them to sleep. And even with the perfumes, I was nowhere close to a decent damage output. Well, that's it. Run's over. We're done. Fuck you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Fine. I give in. Gimme that. Make him strong, cowardly lady. Oh, now you're in for it. Well, guess what? Mimic Tier absolutely sucked. Not only does it not throw a goddamn pot for love nor money, but also it was basically as squishy as I was without any of my ability to dodge. So it was all over faster than you can say Godskin Duo can eat my
Vast crater.
I double give in. Come here, Banal. The big lad also kinda sucks, but at least he can handle more than a boop on the nose before dying. And this made me realise something. He was actually capable of holding the Godskins in one place long enough for volcano pots to become viable. I still need some decent RNG for him to stay alive long enough, but finally, this happened. I'm just so happy. There's no better way to celebrate the demise of the despicable doo-doo duo than by throwing pots at your best friend. It's not so great when you discover he's completely immune to fire. Take two then. Now give me your squishy bits. I indulged in a bunch of tedious volcano mana-related activities to get Dialos to move to Jarberg, waited until his sad demise, and cheered myself up with the Jar Talisman, which further increases the damage of pot items. I had everything I needed now, so it was just a small matter of getting through the rest of the game to deal with. First up, Maliketh. How did this go, you ask? Well, I knew I wanted to stick to fire as my main damage output for this fight, but Maliketh moves around so much in both phases that you really have to be careful in picking your moments to maximise the damage on the volcano pots. After several attempts, I started to get a feel for what windows I could definitely carve for myself in Phase 1. But Phase 2 was a whole different bag. Something I haven't really touched upon yet is how slow throwing a pot actually is, which is fun when Maliketh decides to fly off to the next star system while you're still winding your arm up. Anyway, I finally figured his most consistent openings out, and here's how it went. Ooh, I love the beach. At least Gideon should be no real problem, right? Yeah. Okay. Clearly, the bullying approach wasn't working, so I switched up to the poison him and run away like a coward approach instead, which surprisingly worked wonders. I don't even care anymore. Godfrey next, on my inexorable march towards failure. And at least this is a boss that's fairly predictable with his combos, at least in Phase 1, and has several attacks that leave him with enough cooldown time to exploit, like this one. Or this one. Of course, Phase 2 is a little trickier in that regard, but he still has some fairly consistent exploitables, like his Matrix grab for example. Oh, I'm sorry, was I making this sound easy? Nope, it still took 20 attempts to learn and understand exactly what I could and couldn't get away with. Want me to show you the results? Well, that's it. Final boss done. Elden Ring beaten. Nothing to... Fine. Look, Radahn bitch and Elden bitch have a combined HP pool of over 35,000. And even though Radahn isn't resistant to fire, there was absolutely no way that I was going to be able to kill them both with just the items I was carrying. Didn't stop me bashing my head against them for a while trying though, because I needed to see exactly how far off target I actually was. Radahn in particular is extremely annoying, since he can parry your pot throws, and you can't afford to waste any in this fight. So this relies on trying to find windows where he ends up not facing you. This was pretty much the best I could manage before running out of items. So, no. You cannot beat Elden Ring as a vegetarian craftsman. However, kukri, throwing daggers, fan daggers, gravity fans, and gravity chunks are all purchasable items that on paper are all animal friendly. Maybe I couldn't beat Elden Ring as a vegetarian craftsman, but with the addition of some new throwables, I might just be able to beat it as a vegetarian... consumabler? Here we go then. 19 volcano pots, 10 giant's flame pots, 7 spark aromatic, 30 kukri, 40 throwing daggers, 40 fan daggers, a bunch of weird rocks, and it was time to bring the pain to myself. Oh boy, I hope I don't get all the way to the end of a 27-minute attempt during which Elden Chode did his Elden Stars attack no less than 5 times, only to run out of consumables with him one hit away from death, making me rage so hard I woke up at 5 AM the next morning to repeat the fucking fight till I won. Yeah, that would never happen. Well, there it is. I'd done something. And considering I started this run 6,000 years ago, I had no idea what anymore. But hey, at least I can turn the whole world to shit. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time for another fun instalment of FromSoft Games Rip My Soul Straight Through My Arse.